Hey, everybody, and welcome to the very first episode of And Action. I'm Tommy DiNucci. I'm here with my co host, Mike Messier, and we're very excited to bring you a new approach to a filmmaking podcast that will focus on both sides of the camera. It's going to be a little something for you actors out there. There's going to be a little something for the directors, for the writers, for the producers of the world. Really, if you have any kind of finger in the pie of filmmaking, you'll find something that you like on this show. But today, our first topic, we're going to kind of get right into it, and we're going to focus on the warm weather is here,
Right.
spring has sprung, and with that warm weather often comes a lot of potential acting opportunities. So, Mike, why don't you say a little something about basically how we're going to kick this thing off and how we're going to help you get into basically the spring training for actors. What do you do? How do you get ready for all of these new potential auditions? I don't know about you, but I'm getting a lot of these emails from various casting agents. Spring has sprung, and there's a lot going on out there. What's up, Mike? How you doing, brother? Welcome to the show. It's good to have
I'm
you with me.
good. Yeah, it's great to be here, Tommy. I just want to, kind of talk about a little bit about the background of the show. And if people are watching live, they can leave comments, and we'll address those at the end of the show. But basically, just for those that don't know, that might be catching this show on YouTube, Tommy DiNucci is a filmmaker. He's made some great films with some top people, Don Johnson and Chaz Palminteri and Vault. One of your earlier films that I still really like a lot, Almost Mercy, which is a great dark drama, and kind of takes on the topic of kids, like kind of kids that were in Columbine type of situations. Not that that's the content of your film, but in that basic idea. And then you've got a new one called Johnny and Clyde with featuring none other than Megan Fox. So for those that are new here, Tommy DiNucci is a filmmaker out of Cranston, Rhode Island. He and I have been friends for about 7 years. And he's put me in a couple of his movies that I've been happy to be in. I also make my own independent movies, and I write screenplays and so forth. And so here we are. And Tommy had the inspiration to do this podcast basically because as a director, I would guess, Tommy, in fact, I know that you probably get a few emails every couple of months or month or so look from actors looking for work, but they're probably coming to you, and but they're not approaching you in a way that's really productive for either you or for them. And so I think maybe that helped inspire you to come up with this idea for this first episode of Actors Spring Training, because you want to help the community that you're in. And in this world of internet and online casting and Zoom calls and stuff, it kind of is like the whole world is the oyster for both the actor and the filmmaker when it comes to casting. So that's what I would say to get us going.
Yeah, it really is. You make a good point, Mike. I mean, like, I think anybody who wants to get involved in film, particularly acting, it's kind of like this mystery, right? It's the great unknown. Well, how do I get involved in that? Where do I even start? Where do I begin? And that's what today is kind of about. Like you said, I do get, I would say at least a couple messages a day from people that are trying to get involved in the business in one way, shape, or form. And everybody has a different approach. Some people just want to be an extra, and they just want to
Right,
see what it's like to be on a movie set, and that's kind of one side. The things that we're going to be talking about today are geared a little bit more towards people who really want to try to make a profession out of this and use it to make a living. And how can you consider this to be not just a hobby, not just something that you do on the side, but an actual job. I think
right,
that so like that's step one, right off the bat, that's kind of a mouthful, but I think it's important to not think of this like a hobby, to not think of this like some kind of a pipe dream, and to be realistic about your approach, kind of like you would any other job or any other goal that you're trying to do, trying to accomplish. Like one thing that I think a lot of people can relate to is getting in shape, right? Like obviously a lot of people say, especially when like the warm weather's coming, like, oh, gee, maybe I'll lose a couple pounds. Maybe it's time to, get in shape. Well, if you were going to get in shape, you'd probably like work out a few times a week, right? You
Right.
know, that's what most people would do. Maybe not every day, but maybe you'd find a gym or maybe you'd go for a walk and you would work at it 3, 4, or 5 times a week. Well, it's the same thing with acting, but for some reason, I find that not all actors kind of have that same mentality where, like, they don't necessarily want to go to the gym every day.
Right.
They want to say that they're actors, but they don't want to put that kind of extra training in. And granted, acting's an art form, and to be good at it, yes, there's a great deal of natural ability that goes into it. That doesn't mean that you can't get better, and that doesn't mean that a good actor can train to become great. A great actor can train to be phenomenal, and so forth and so on. So I'd say, like, step one, start treating your acting like it's any other job that you're trying to get better at, or like it's again like you're trying to put some muscle on at the gym or trying to drop some weight and get trim for the summer. You got to train it a few times a week, and you're probably saying to yourself, "Well, what do you mean? What does that fucking mean? Train it
Sure.
a few times a week?" Well, here's how you do that. You know, so this is kind of like step one for spring training for actors. I highly recommend actors should have some monologues that they go out and they get in their head and they find a monologue that really suits you. Step one,
Right.
make sure that it's not from a movie. And I'm going to say why it shouldn't be from a movie. If you pick a monologue to practice from a movie, whether you like it or not, you're inevitably going to be doing an imitation, a gimmick, a ripoff of whoever did the original one. You know,
Right.
if you wanna do the, like, I'll never forget, like, one of my big mistakes, like, early on when I tried to do, like, the Al Pacino speech from Any Given Sunday,
Mm. Right.
and it was just
But
like, "What are you doing, man? Like, what the fuck are you trying to do the Al Pacino Any Given Sunday speech for when you're 20 something years old?
right.
It's not written for you, and the great Al Pacino already did it and did it better than anybody could ever do it." I'd recommend finding something a little more obscure. Find something that's a play, find something that maybe not as many people know about. That way you can truly make it your own. So step 1, you gotta find a monologue that really suits you. There's a million ways to do this. If you Google great monologues for actors, you'll find multiple lists of dozens and dozens, if not hundreds, of really great, quick 1, 2, 3-minute monologues, nothing crazy. I'd take that monologue and every day I would train it and practice it and try to memorize it. And what this will do is aside from obviously you'll be working your craft, you'll be working on those little memorization muscles that are kind of like in your brain that if you don't do it all the time, you just never utilize it. So, step one, you're learning a monologue, you're working on your memorizing of dialogue skills. And then finally, I guess this would be 3, because step 1, you pick out the monologue.
Sure.
Step 2, you rehearse it and try to commit it to memory. Get yourself off book, right? We've heard that a million times.
Yep.
And then
Memorize.
and memorize it. And then step 3, you basically audition for yourself. And what I mean by that is you set up your audition camera just like you would any other audition, and you put yourself on tape and you try to get through that monologue the best you can from start to finish, and you try it and then you watch it and you analyze it and you see where you went right and where you went wrong and what you can do better, and don't beat yourself up over it, but obviously you're going to find those little nuances like, ooh, I do this weird thing with
Yeah.
my mouth when I say it. Maybe I got to watch on that. Ooh, I'm not articulating certain words quite the right way. I got to work on that. So don't be
Right.
afraid to watch those tapes back and critique yourselves. And then guess what? Like once you've done the critique, do it again, tape yourself again, and see if you can, step it up and even master it. I really recommend doing this like on a weekly basis. And once you feel like you've mastered one monologue, try to move on to another monologue and just keep it going. And then, if anything, at the end of the day, you'll have several monologues committed to memory so that when it comes time to maybe audition for a play, something like that, sometimes a lot of times they'll require, like, hey, you got to do a monologue. Well,
Right.
now you'll be ahead of the game because you'll have like a couple of really good monologues that you've already kind of warmed up on and you're comfortable with. So that's step 1, that's kinda how you rehearse. That's to me, like, how you can sorta go to the gym, on a
Sure.
daily basis as an actor that, guess what? It doesn't require anybody else. You don't need a scene partner for that one.
Right. If I could throw some stuff in there, when you're talking about the monologues that are kind of been overdone over the years, the quintessential overdone male uh, monologue is the Alec Baldwin
Oh,
always be
Glenn Gary,
selling.
Glenn, yeah, Glenn Gary, Glenn Ross. I literally did that as my first monologue, so you're absolutely right.
It's the quintessential, because it's a great monologue. But as you were saying about the Pacino example, you, here's the thing that I would, the same thing that you were saying, but also from the ears of the casting director or the person that's receiving the monologue. If they are watching you do Scent of a Woman, Al Pacino, or Al Pacino in the one that you did, or Glengarry Glen Ross, the person has seen most likely the movie that you were emulating, the role, the performance.
Right.
And so they're naturally comparing you to the Alec Baldwin. So even if you love Alec Baldwin or you love Al Pacino, you love those, and you really think I could do better or different, unfortunately, you're just setting yourself up for a fight you can't win, which is to be better than what everyone knows is the Baldwin or the Pacino, or enter your favorite actor or actress, Meryl Streep, whoever, Denzel, So I would just embellish that a little bit. And then what I think is really what you're saying, Tommy, and I do like your thoughts here, is you're kind of encouraging people to be their own acting coach in a way, or acting teacher. And I would also say that for actors that are maybe less experienced than that are just getting started, there's nothing wrong with taking a traditional acting class. And these days, there's so many on Zoom and so
No,
forth. You can
no,
also do
you're
that.
yeah, you're 100% right. Like what I wanted to get onto first is just, no offense to any actors that are watching this. I love you all, and I am an actor. But one thing that we all do as actors is sometimes I feel like sometimes we make excuses for ourselves as
Sure.
to like why we're not in a certain place or where we want to be. The methods that I'm trying to talk about today, for the most part, are things that require no one else's help. They're things that you can do completely by yourself. Nobody's going to be like, oh, well, I could do that, but then I don't have a partner to read with, or I can do
Right.
that, but the classes are expensive, or I can't,
Yep.
like these are the kind of things that, like you said, coaching yourself, and you will be the hardest on yourself, and that's okay. But it's important to kind of like, again, treat it like a job. Don't be afraid of like, where am I weak? Well, you damn right, you better know what your weaknesses are so that you can avoid them and you can protect yourself from them. And then, of course, with that, on a positive side, you're going to end up learning, what are my strengths? What am I good at? Wow, I'm really good at the comedy stuff. Or, ooh, you
Yeah.
know what? I'm really good at this drama stuff. The comedy stuff, not so much. So I think it's important, like, again, not every actor is going to be like in baseball. They call it like a five-tool player, someone who can hit
Right.
for average, hit for power, steal bases, play the field. Not everyone's going to be able to do it all. So it's important to recognize, hey, what am I good at? And focus hard on that. But you're right. Listen, I will never knock traditional acting classes and finding people on Zoom. And that's actually something that, we're going to get into a little bit later. Mike has some really great books that you can read, which, obviously, some people can kind of learn from books a little bit better than others. Some people maybe not so much, but I've always found it at least a bit of a helpful tool. Mike's going to get into that later. Quick
Sure.
shout out to a few of our listeners we've got on here. We've got Steven and Ari, and I think we had Donnie St. John on earlier. Thanks for joining in, guys, on our very first inaugural episode. We're going to try our best to keep up with the comments as we go. So if you see something you'd like to jump in, feel free to shout it out. But if anything, we'll catch up with you all towards the end of the show. And just so you know, we're looking to try and aim for right around an hour on these shows, and we're very committed to getting them out there every single week. Because not to take we're getting in the weeds, and I'm deterring a little bit. This is not my first foray into podcasting, and I think one of the kind of critiques I could give myself is that consistency has always kind of been the issue. So we're committed to bringing you an episode every week. We hope to stick to this Tuesday time frame, but
Sure.
yeah, it's exciting. We're excited to have you. It's nice to see some live watchers. And just so you know, too, you don't have to watch the show live. The show is also going to be just right up on my YouTube channel. So you'll be able to check that out at Tom DiNucci. And yes, Stephen, we are broadcasting on my end from the porch, as we always like to kick it here in Cranston. Mike, however, is in his remote studio in Florida. Mike, what
Yeah.
part of Florida are you in again?
I'm in Jacksonville, which is the first major city once you cross from the Georgia Florida line. So I'm here in
Northern Florida.
northern Florida, no flow.
No flow.
No flow.
They
How
got to
about
come up with
that?
a better nickname. They got to come up with a better nickname than that.
I just came up with that. Let's get to our
Yeah,
next
let's get back.
bullet
Let's
point
get back
here.
to it. All right.
No,
So,
sure.
Go ahead, buddy.
Well, I think on the you did a really nice outline of this. Networking was your second bullet point. Is that where you want to head next?
Yeah, I think that networking is obviously a big part of this because, all right, so step one, putting yourself on tape and working the monologues. Really, what that is that's bouncing the ball against the wall and catching it yourself, and bouncing the ball against the garage door and catching it yourself, throwing it up in the air, catching it yourself. It's a lot more fun to play catch when you can throw it to someone and they can whip it right back to you and you can catch it. So
Right.
that's where networking comes into play. That's where finding like-minded individuals to partner up with and get together. And again, we talked about this is really just like an extension of step one. But imagine if you found some really cool monologues that have more than one actor in them, and you and a pal could kind of get together and work those scenes, beat them up, get together and just keep working the craft and finding the nuances in the scene. And then with that, of course, you end up, uh, you know, learning a lot about what's going on in the acting scene wherever you're from. I mean,
Right.
we're in New England up here, but it's obviously everywhere it's a little different. But I'd like to think that one thing that's kind of true is throughout is that all actors they kind of want to band together to a degree, and there's always a little scene. So when you're talking to other actors that have similar interests, that's when you're going to find out about the play that's auditioning down the street at the new theater that just opened. That's when you're going to learn about, oh, there's this college kid who makes films and he's always looking for actors and he's a really cool kid. And you give him a call, or oh, there's this young budding playwright or whatever. That's when you'll learn about like who's existing in the scene wherever you
Right.
are, whether you're in New England like I am, whether you're in Jacksonville, Florida like Mike is. Like Mike, real quick, you just moved to Florida a couple of years ago. You've already found like a nice little network of fellow actors and people. And how'd you do that? You just sniffed around. Tell us how you got connected into a networked and a new scene down in Florida.
Well, I knew a lady, a woman who had moved here to Florida before me from New England because her husband was in the military and they got reassigned down here. So she told me about this group, Jack's Film Bar Mondays. And the group was actually inspired from a different group from Atlanta, Georgia. And essentially, this group meets every Monday night in a bar somewhere in Jacksonville. What I found commendable was they didn't go to the same bar every Monday night. They went to a different bar because the city of Jacksonville is almost like half the size of Rhode Island. It's huge. So they went to like the beach area or the downtown or the art district. And even if there was a fifth Monday of every month, they would still have a meeting, which I found to be impressive. And so they have been a really good group. Now, COVID took some of the wind out of their sails and they started doing online meetings, which is okay. But in the last couple of months, they've started doing the in-person meetings again, which I prefer.
So basically, you were able to kind of just, you know, ask around. You had one lead, and then you found a network of people that kind of meet on a consistent basis. And,
Yeah.
and obviously, like I said, you're gonna see that in kind of every major area wherever you go. You're gonna find these like-minded people that want to get together and make something happen, or at least get the conversation started.
Well, here's a thought. Meetup, the site Meetup has a lot of groups. If you go to Meetup, whatever city you're in, big city, small city, or whatever, put acting groups or filmmaking groups or independent acting or independent filmmaking or play groups, and you'll find something on Meetup. Of course, you go to Facebook. If you were in Des Moines, Iowa, and put Des Moines, Iowa actors into Facebook, something will probably pop up. So a lot of times when people don't know where to get started, sometimes it's just like, hey, we have this wonderful thing called the internet now, which can be used for good or evil. Use it for good and find the people that you're looking to find.
So we're going to move on to step number 3, which, again, the name of the podcast is And Action. There's a little bit of a movie connotation there. Obviously, directors say action right before they roll it, right before the actors do their thing. But really, it's kind of got a double meaning because this show's also just about making things happen, whether it's maybe not the conventional route, but you're still getting things done. And with that, on the notion of the And Action podcast, so with that mantra, that brings me to step number 3. Fuck it, make a movie. And what that
Right.
means is, you know what? It's crazy the world that we're living in. And I've just been dabbling this a little bit myself. The cameras on our iPhones are just phenomenal. They shoot in 4K. It's really something incredible. The borderline free editing software that you can find online, is it enough to like cut a feature film that you're going to sell to Netflix? Maybe not. Is it enough to make a film that you feel proud enough about as a proof of concept that, you know what, I'm a talented actor or I'm a talented storyteller, I'm a director, filmmaker? Absolutely. And we have these great platforms like YouTube that I'm talking on right now, and TikTok, Instagram Reels. We have all these chances to get eyes on your material and eyes on your content. So why not just try to do it yourself and will it into existence? So step 3, fuck it, make a movie, is kind of a combination of step 1 and step 2 coming together. Step 1, obviously, we're just doing monologues by ourselves. We're studying in our room, we're putting ourselves on tape. We're trying to get better at what we do. Step 2, well, we've got our monologues, we've been working them a little bit, and we're going to meet some other people. We're going to see what kind of monologues they're interested in. You found out what you were good at in step 1. Oh, I'm a comedic actor. Well, this guy, maybe he found out what they're good at, and maybe they're the dramatic actor. Well, maybe this woman here is really got a little bit of both. She can be funny and dramatic. You'll find that all out during step 2, which is this networking process. Step 3, fuck it, make a movie. Band together, get the gang together, and try to get some ideas crafting. Again, with that networking, we probably should have mentioned this when we were on too, but that's not necessarily just networking with other actors.
Right.
It's networking with film people, it's networking with writers, it's networking with directors, it's networking with producers. Usually all these kind of people are in this these fish are all in the same fish tank.
A lot of
You're
overlap
going
in these different fields. Yeah.
Yes, there are. So like the person who is an aspiring writer might be hanging out at the same coffee shop and going to the same film networking event that the actor does, that the producer does. And once you band that together, you have to get together and say, you know what, let's try to just make a project happen. Now, obviously, a lot of people are going to say, like, well, that requires money. Well, that requires this and that. And well, what if there's SAG actors and then unions get involved? It's like, yeah, some of those elements may be accurate, but, again, we're talking about people that are not the kinds of level that we're talking about. This is for people that are trying to get to that level where it would be an issue. I can almost guarantee you that if you're getting together and just working scenes, nobody's going to come after you for that. You're not going to get in trouble.
Right.
If you're just putting yourself on tape with other actors, you're not going to try to make money with it. This is really just like an exercise to get together. Maybe you do put it out there in a film festival format or something like that. But again, it's such a weird thing to do, acting. It's not normal. We don't do it all the time. So we'd be crazy to think that if we're not working these muscles and these skill sets on a regular basis that we're going to get any good at it. So a big part of spring training for actors is like dusting the winter dirt off of you and kind of like waking your acting body up and getting back out there, because most of us, aren't fortunate enough to be going from booking TV show to TV show or booking movie to movie.
Sure.
Most of us maybe we'll get cast in something and then we might not get cast in anything for 6 months. We might not get cast for a year. So
Right.
it's like we're not expected to just go dormant that whole time. You have to be doing something.
Good point. And going back to the make your own film thing, I've literally shot things with my iPhone or smartphone, Android, doesn't matter which phone you use. You can shoot a monologue or whatever you want to call it, direct to camera rant. I've done plenty of those and had them accepted into film festivals. A lot of film festivals now, Tommy, that people can find on Film Freeway have mobile movie categories, or device categories, whatever you want to call it. That's become a new thing over the last 10 years is the mobile film category. And there's also film festivals that have monologue categories. I run a film festival, as you know, Avalonia Festival. I specifically have a one actor or actress movie or monologue category because I try to open up that competition for people that actually film something of themselves. So a lot of times, Tommy, I think actors and people in general think in terms of, but what do I do with this? If I'm going to put my time and my effort and my energy into doing something creative, what do I do with it? Well, if you make your own short film and you don't know what to do with it, you have Film Freeway to enter contests in. If you might be wondering what happens if I get into a film contest? Well, typically you're not going to get a plane ticket or a hotel room from the festival, depending on the festival. Most likely you won't, but you will be an invited guest to come to the festival to speak to the live audience about your project that you made by yourself. And it might be a simple thing like a library screening room or a coffee house like the old Brooklyn Coffee and Tea House in Providence that had the screening room that people can go. But once again, that's bringing you back to the networking, So there's a lot to be said for generating your own projects is a good way to summarize it.
That's true, and this is a really great quote somebody told me a while ago when it comes to like people watching your content, whatever it is. It's not always the amount of eyes that see it; it's which eyes see it. So, like you said, you never know who's at a film festival, whether it be an up and coming producer or director, any kind of filmmaker that sees for example, Mike, like you mentioned, you have this 2-minute direct monologue and it's a new media thing and it's just, for the phone category. Maybe somebody sees that and you're exactly what that person is looking for their feature, for their short film, for their project. And they would have never known that. They would have never seen you in a million years if you didn't say, you know what, I'm going to put myself on tape and I'm going to enter this into this festival. You have to have the gumption to actually do things. Um, one thing that I've noticed from, being in this business for a little over 10 years is nobody is going to do anything for you.
Right.
And anybody who sits around waiting is going to get left behind very quickly. It's like, it's almost like time seems to move extra fast in the entertainment world. And again, time waits on nobody. So it's like your dream role isn't just going to fall into your lap. A lot of times you need to kind of like a lighthouse kind of firing their little beacon of light out there and hoping that somebody sees it and believing that if you put out enough content into the universe, someone will see it. It'll be the right person. Like Mike said, uh, you got to enter your stuff. You got to get it out there. You got to get as many eyes on it as possible.
Yeah, and if nothing else, you just put your short film on YouTube and share that link on Facebook until people get sick of seeing it. And once again on the Facebook thing, which I've been through the ringer with, but there are plenty of film groups and Facebook, Reddit. A lot of people don't use Reddit to their full advantage, but on Reddit, there's a couple of short film groups where you can post your link and people may or may not watch your movie, but at least you're getting it out there. You're giving them the option to watch your movie
Yeah,
or your
and you
monologue.
just not to interrupt, brother, but you just made a good point. You said you post it, you share it up on Facebook, and you share it until people get sick of it. Now, don't get me wrong, there is a level of like, all right, that's enough, buddy. This is the fourth
Right.
time you've posted it today.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
not get ridiculous. There is a limit here. But a very wise person told me, hey, you know what? You got to post that shit as much as possible because the reality is the people that are going to be turned off by you for promoting yourself, the people that are going to be upset because you keep posting or be pissed off or say, why does this guy keep posting this up? They were never going to support you in the first place. They
Right.
were never going to give you dollar number one. So don't worry about what those people think. Who cares how much you want to post something? You should be supporting yourself as much as possible because, like I said, nobody's going to do it for you.
Right.
Really, like there's not going to be any magical angel of self promotion that comes down and says, we're going to make it happen for you. You have to do it yourself. So that was just like my one little thing that I wanted to say. Like, don't ever let people make you feel as though you're posting something too much to support yourself, especially if it's something that you work really hard on and you're getting the word out there. Because I'll be honest with you, I've worked with some pretty big actors. I've directed big stars before, and I've made movies that have been on some of the highest platforms possible. And I thought I've been posting too much, and I'll post and post and post. And I'll have somebody who's like pretty close to me, like 6 months later, be like, "Hey, I just saw that thing you posted. When did you do
Right.
that?" And I'll be like, "How the fuck did they miss that? I've been posting it for six
Yeah.
months." But
Right.
the reality is, like, sometimes we see things from like our own perspective and we don't
Correct.
realize that the rest of the world is not stuck inside your eyes.
Right.
So you have to post stuff all the time because you never know who's going to see it.
Well,
Um,
here's a thought towards that end, Tommy. Sometimes the person, if you're promoting yourself, whether it's Tommy or Mike or anyone else, if you're always the one posting, you feel after a while self-conscious about it. You feel like I'm overexposing myself. In your mind, just like Tommy was saying, you're thinking that everybody is seeing your posts just as much as you're seeing them, but they're not, because the timing of when they are on Facebook, the algorithms, the threads, the feeds, and even if they do see it more than once, a lot of times the human brain needs to see something like 3 times before it even registers. Like
100%.
commercials, right? So we always feel more self-conscious about our own promotional activities than usually the rest of the world does. Um, so
Yeah. So
yeah,
this
man.
is Mike. This is Mike and Tommy telling you, as far as we're concerned, you post that shit out as much as you want and you don't
Right,
let anyone think otherwise. Fine print. The fine print right here says, don't be fucking obnoxious. Obviously, don't post that shit 4 or 5 times a day. But if you're posting something once a day, every other day, and you really care about it and you're not beating it into the ground, and maybe you're finding a little way to add a little nuance with each post, maybe you're finding a way to, make it a little different, a little more exciting, it's okay. Mike and I give you permission. Don't be self conscious. Because, like I said, the people that are going to hate on you for that would never give you dollar number one if your life depended on it. They don't care about you, so fuck them. Don't be placating to them, please.
sure. All right.
All right, so yeah, moving on. So obviously we all change as the times go on. So you'll notice I've got a little different look here. I'm currently sporting this blonde hair. I was recently in a film called Merry Xmas, directed by Jake Cooney, produced by Chad Birdie Jr. and Paul Luba, shot right up here in Rhode Island. And the role required a little blonde hair. So the next topic is headshots. And the reason why I'm mentioning this little anecdote about my hair is because, well, what do you think I did? Of course, I updated my headshot because I don't look like the person on my old headshot.
Right.
And that's an important thing. I will say this. I think a lot of people probably have been guilty of spending too much money on headshots in the past. Raise your hand if you're one of them. I'm one of them. Okay.
Sure, buddy.
We've all done it. We spent a lot of money on some headshots, and at the end of the day, did you book that dream role off the headshot? Probably not. So I'll say this: I am not knocking professional photographers. I'm probably going to get a bunch of shit from this from every photographer on the planet. They're going to hate me. But remember, part of the End Action podcast is about eliminating excuses,
Right.
okay, and just making things happen. So if that means that you got to get your iPhone, which is a great camera, you got to get a nice simple background and stand in front of it like your wall at home in your living room and have your roommate snap a picture for you. And then maybe you tweak it with a little filter, a little action, nothing crazy. Again, you want your picture to look like you.
Right.
Well, then that's what you got to do. So my points are: don't go crazy on these headshots. Don't go crazy spending a ton of money. Don't break your bank on headshots. That's the biggest waste of time. I'll tell you right now, I've directed about 10 movies. I've been in the audition room many a times. You're going to hate to hear this. a lot of times, like, we're not even looking at the headshot. We're really not. The headshot's really just like a basic frame of reference so that I can be like, okay, yeah, that's this person and they're next. And maybe, yeah,
Right.
we'll look at that person. But like, I really do think there's way too much focus on the headshot. The one important thing about the headshot is just keep them current. So
Right.
this is spring training for actors. Something you might want to do in the spring is update your headshots.
Well, I think that what you said is great, Tommy. As a matter of fact, I'm kind of going through this debate. I have a business of acting coach myself these days, and she's a big proponent of these, a little bit higher priced headshot photographers. I really don't want to spend the money because a lot of times I haven't spent the money. I'll say this to build off your point. If anyone takes 200 selfies of themselves with a decent backdrop and decent lighting, if you take 200 selfies, you'll get one that you like. But who's the person that's going to sit there and take 200 selfies? Maybe somebody listening will. But if you know what I mean, it's a numbers game. Take a whole lot of pictures. I can almost guarantee that one of them you'll be okay with as a headshot.
Yeah, there's so many ways to do it, man. I mean, I don't have to tell you this, but you put it on video mode, you prop it up, you do a bunch of different poses, you screenshot it if you have a problem. You don't even need a photographer. You don't even need your roommate. You can do it yourself. Save the 300 or 400 bucks, whatever it is. Just get yourself a nice picture. And listen, I've booked roles. I swear to God, I've booked roles where I've taken my picture on my iPhone. I've driven down to the CVS. I've printed it at like the 1 hour photo gimmick, the 8 by
Right.
10 picture, and handed that in. And I booked the role. Now I'm not talking about like earth changing roles. I didn't win an Oscar. I
Yeah.
didn't get nominated even. But my point is like you can successfully book parts by literally just taking a pic on your iPhone, going to the drugstore, wherever they, wherever they print up pictures and coming at it with that. Um, we're just Mike and I are going to try and save you some money along the way too, because I see a lot of actors spending money on things that they just don't need to spend money on.
There's a lot of bartering. I used to work with a lady named Deborah Gagnon, who she was a great photographer, and I would barter acting coaching for her headshot work. She'd take the headshots of me, and I'd give her a couple of free acting classes, a trade for her headshot photography. So there's always a way to save that $400 or $500. And Tommy, I don't know if you've had actors or actresses tell you that they get upset because they paid $400 or $500 for a headshot and they didn't get to wear the outfits they wanted to wear, or they felt rushed, or they felt like their makeup or their hair wasn't right, and that the photographer, didn't tell them that or whatever. So, um, anyway, I think that's a good point, buddy.
Yeah, at the end of the day, just remember the headshot's really just like it's just like a file photo. It's just so that we know, like, oh, okay, this is this person, that's that person. Really, where you're gonna win, where you're gonna book the role, it's the audition. That's all that
Right.
matters. Um, and trust me, and I don't mean this, I don't mean to use the word desperate like in a bad way, but usually when you're trying to just get the cast together for your movie, I don't want to say you're so desperate, but like you don't care what the picture looks like. You're caring about like how good is this person when I turn the camera on, you
Right.
know? Um, all right, guys, we are rounding things out. We're coming up on our last like major bullet point. And this is a fun one. That's kind of why I decided to save it for last. All right. We've all seen it on a resume at the very bottom. It's the specialty skill set. And we see all kind of funny things from fencing to playing guitar to doing being a gymnast. Special skills and interest. It's always kind of like the goofy thing that you almost laugh at when you see people's resume because some people put some really wild things down there that you say to yourself, like, well, Jesus, like when is anyone gonna need like I'm an astronaut or whatever. So you see some like really
Yeah. Water
crazy
skiing,
things.
polka
Yeah,
dance,
water
whatever.
skiing.
Yeah.
But I do believe that it is important to have a few skill sets as an actor. One thing that I've always been impressed with by a lot of the great actors that I've worked with, actors that, really talented actors are chameleons. They have the ability to kind of adapt to whatever situation they're presented with. Part of adapting to situations is just getting really good at something really fast. Um, and I've seen that. I've worked on movies where people just have kind of picked something up uh, really, really quick. Like for example, I worked on one movie where I had an actor who like literally never skated before, ice skating, and like by the end of the day, like all right, I'll figure it out. Like let me get these skates, and they just did it. So like I want you people to channel the inner ability for every actors to just be good at stuff by finding a couple little cool things that you can do that are unique that you could be good at that you never know when you're going to break it out. What I mean by that is maybe you play an instrument. Well,
Right.
springtime, getting ready for the spring. Now's a good time to break the guitar out and try and strum a few chords and get good, for a potential role. Or maybe it is getting yourself in shape for the role. Maybe it is a good time to, you know, drop a little of the winter weight and do some cardio. Maybe it is time to kind of like, now that the world is coming back to life and we're kind of getting out of the pandemic mode a little bit, maybe now's a nice time to, you know, rejoin that rock climbing gym that you used to do, that, whatever it may be. Uh, I
Well, I
guess what
was
I'm
going to
saying,
say,
and well, just to sum it up, is like actors are always good at lots of things. So just find some things that you can get really good at that might help you in a cinematic way.
I was going to suggest some real go-to things. Singing. If you are an actor, sometimes there's opportunities for musical dinner theater or musical theater, or there's actors that work on cruises. You know what I mean? So I mean, but a lot of times they require you to be able to sing as well. So if you've never had a singing lesson or a voice coach or something like that, you can look into that. Horseback riding. Every once in a while you get some Western project, and they need people who can ride horses. Well, if you have that skill set and you can legitimately say, "I'm comfortable on a horse," you will get cast over the version of you that's not comfortable riding the horse. You'll have the driving a stick shift. A lot of people these days don't learn
That's
how to
so
drive a
funny.
stick shift.
It's funny that you say driving a stick shift because I've literally been in a situation in a movie where I'm not really great with the stick shift. I'll be
Right.
honest. We can let the world know right now. And it was one of those things where I got in this truck and they were like, "All right, so you're gonna peel out and kind of burn rubber out of this parking lot." And I get in the truck and I see the stick shift and I'm like, "Oh, uh,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't think I can do that." So like, it's
Right.
funny that Mike says that because that's literally a situation I've been in.
Yeah.
But to play to Mike's point, also, if you own a classic car or some kind of unique vehicle, that's also something to like put on your resume for sure. I know there's been
Right.
I actually know people that have gotten small bit parts in movies because the director liked the car that the person could show up to in set. Like, oh, you got that 57 Chevy, whatever? Great. Yeah. And that guy ends up working a line in somehow. So you never know.
Yeah.
Like sometimes it's just about getting there. You never know what's gonna get there. Sometimes these special skill sets can put you in a position that might open up a new opportunity. That's really all it comes down to. I think I wish I kind of said that 5 minutes ago because I feel like I kind of jumbled up what I was trying to explain and the importance of the skill set. But really, just to sum it up, it's like Mike said, it's like that might be that one little nuance and that one little ability that you have that the next person doesn't have. That's the difference between you getting the part over them. So,
Right.
what is it that you're good at? Figure it out. Get better at it while you're waiting for auditions to happen, while you're waiting for your friends to network during step 2 at the coffee shop. Figure out whatever it is, special skill that you have that could be handy.
Sure.
So we're winding it down. Those are pretty much all of our basic bullet points. Mike has some really cool books that I can't personally vouch for these books, but Mike can. He's worked with them in the past. Little quick background on Mike. Mike is also an acting coach and has done a lot of work. He's been my acting coach on a couple of projects and has gotten a really great performance out of me. So you're in good hands with Mike. If he recommends these books, they're probably pretty good. So Mike, have at it, brother.
Well, I would say the first acting book I'd recommend is Audition by Michael Sherlock, which I actually don't have a copy on me because I gave to one of my acting years ago. But Audition by Michael Sherlock. This one is kind of the advanced level acting book. The intent Your True Potential as an Actor by Larry Moss. I actually had the opportunity to meet Larry, and he signed this book for me somewhere. But you can see in my copy, Tom, pages highlighted and all types of stuff, different colors of highlighter, because this is a great book, and I think people will love it once you get into it. Another acting book, The Power of the Actor by Ivana Chubbuck. The reason why I have friendly enemies is my acting coach myself, Barry Primus, actually has written some chapters in here. But this is a great it's hard to happen. Book for beginners, I think, with just some real practical wisdom of the 2020 acting scene. Some other notes I made, Tommy. Once again, my friend Kim suggested the Cold Read app. If you're looking to memorize your lines, I paid for this thing, so I'm not getting any commission, but it's an app you can put on your phone that basically you can record the reader's lines for any audition script, like a dialogue. And then basically you go in there and you can make little files. You know what I mean? I'm just showing you how it works. But basically, it's a really cool little app, and it gives you a little teleprompter so you can actually read your lines as you're going through. So if I were to be doing this, I'd be saying this, and then it would give me the other reader's lines. So that's the Cold Read app. For those that have a hard time memorizing lines, it's a great app to help you. Let's see what else. If you're looking for roles, if you're at the point where you feel like you're doing your spring training and you're ready to go get some roles, try Actors Access. That's a good website for breakdown services in different regions of the United States. And that's about it, Tommy. I just say to people, as you said when we started, be active, be proactive. Don't wait for that phone to ring. Start making some calls yourself, or start working yourself, and you'll get things accomplished.
Yeah, there's nothing more attractive in life, and this goes for the movie business, and I really just think across the board, but there's nothing more attractive than people who are out there getting after it. If people see you being convicted in what you want to do and accomplishing your goals, you're going to attract attention, and it's going to be positive attention, and it's going to be people that want to kind of join in and get behind that. And maybe I'm kind of a optimistic to a fault at time, but I really do believe that the more positivity you put into the world, the more you're going to get back. And I think it's the same thing with your career. I think the more that you focus this energy in, good things are going to happen. It's the same thing with acting. Just to review, remember, guys, this isn't a dream. This isn't some kind of pipe dream. This isn't like getting a winning lottery ticket. This is an occupation. It's a job. It's something that you got to treat like a job and take it very seriously. And serious benefits will come from putting that kind of an effort in. Um, Shout out to everybody who's been following along. We really appreciate it. I'm going
I
to kind
think
of
you could,
scroll up and see
sure.
if we
I
have any
think you,
questions here.
I think you can put some of the comments or questions on the screen. If you click on them, I think they
Yeah,
pop up on the screen.
I got to do that. I'm going to have to go through here. Please pause again, everyone. This is one of those things. Here we go. Now I got the hang of it.
Yeah, just
See, look
leave
at
them up
look
for
at
a
all
second
your
so people can read them.
look at all your wonderful comments coming through. Yeah, why don't
Sure.
we'll spend like the last 10 minutes of the show here kind of going through these. And
Yeah.
remember, everybody, we apologize. We're still working through the kinks. Like right now, I got a giant comment across my face, and that's just because I still am learning how to use this wonderful StreamYard program. Uh, Bear with us. We promise every show is going to get a little bit better as we work it out. But yes, Stephen E. is kind of just talking about some of these coaching techniques. We've got Ari Brisbane, who's here with us, talking about some monologue stuff. We can't be comfortable. That is the
Good
fact.
point. Good point.
Doing these monologues, every week, every other week, switching it up, learning a different monologue, that'll get you out of that comfort zone. Um, Steven says, you can't train yourself when you're not in class, or you can train yourself when you're not in class. Exactly. Again, it's like saying that, why couldn't you take all of the responsibility to get better? Don't let anybody else be the reason why you're slowing down. Ari says, I have a bad habit of spitting when I'm articulating. I can't do that. I can't do that on camera. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. If you go to a lot of live productions, you do see uh, a lot of spitting going on. And that is something that, I'm sure as you're working in more of a film setting and you don't have as much of a feeling to project to the back of the room as much as you probably would in theater, maybe you can control some of the expectorating that's happening. Going back to the basics, Steven's just reminiscing here about the porch. That was my first show a while back. All right, let's see. Looks like some of our users here, or some of our watchers
Thanks, Steven.
Have been pals. Yeah, we appreciate Steven. Steven's a great supporter. And we have Kim Kaling here. Hi, Kim. Kim was wondering how often we should post and what's the deal with posting. And Kim,
She has a good question here. How do you feel about posting about auditions? Just to join. We didn't talk about that.
Yeah,
Tommy,
let's talk about that. Let's spend a minute on that. That's a good one. I'm assuming, Kim, we're talking about like if you do an audition. Are we saying, because there's two different things that I can think about. There's posting about an audition, like, hey, I just got this audition. I'm really excited about it. And then there's actually, I've seen this a lot. People like posting portions of their actual audition, like from their actual tape.
Right.
So here's my 2 cents on that. And Kim, to be honest with you, there's no real true rules to any of this stuff. It's all just like personal preference. So I'm just going to tell you my personal thing on it. So like, I can't say that this is the law. This is just what I think. I've always been a fan of like not really talking about auditioning until I get the part. Like that's kind of my thing. That's like an old school, like don't talk to the pitcher during a no hitter kind of a thing.
Right.
Like in my mind, I'm like, if I talk about this, it's not going to happen. Let me just chill and think about how exciting it will be if I am able to post. Like if you're going to post anything, you should post, I auditioned last week for this part and I booked it. Like
Right.
that should be the post. So I guess like, look, if you want to get excited about something, get excited about it. It's your life. Like, I don't think anyone's going to knock it. For me, though, I don't know. Maybe it's superstition. I just wouldn't be posting about anything until I actually got the part. Um, we've all seen it before, and I've probably done this before, but like, if you see a picture from like a self tape and you want to put it up because you think you look good or whatever, that's never going to hurt you. But here's what I think could hurt you. This is where if I was a casting person and I saw a person do this, I might be like, a little skeptical about this person. Remember, when you're reading an audition, you're reading, in theory, copywritten, top secret, confidential information.
Right.
So posting any portion of the actual audition, like any words of it, I mean, it's actually quite a mistake. And it's something that if I was a casting person, I could even go as far as to say that you're kind of breaking some forms of confidentiality there.
Yeah.
So I would never post an actual video of anything from an audition. If you want to post a picture of yourself in front of your self-tape setup because it's a nice pic and you look good, go for it. That's all good. But I would never post anything video.
I would.
Mike, you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, it's funny because I was actually reading more of this book today in preparation for our show tonight, and I wish I could find this is Matt Newton's book, and somewhere in this book, he says really what you were saying, Tommy, which is it's in poor taste to share your auditioning because if nothing, kind of giving the green light for your actor friends on Facebook or Instagram or whatever to flood the phone calls or the phone bank of the casting company. So I try to break that down a little bit. If I were to go online and say, hey, folks, I just auditioned at Boston casting for this role or Jacksonville casting for this role, and I'm so excited about it and I hope I get it. Well, guess what? You're inviting more competition because other actors who might be also up for that, they could be up the role, they know about it now. And also maybe the casting company doesn't want any more people inquiring or auditioning. Maybe you were invited to audition or whatever based on prior work. So you're basically opening the floodgates for a company that may not want the floodgates open. You're kind of infringing upon the rights of privacy for the production without even knowing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and again, hey, this is a business, and you got to be competitive. And like Mike said, like maybe you're putting someone on that's going to get the part over you, and you
Right.
should have just kind of kept it quiet. Like maybe that was your part, and for all we know, you just gave away your part to somebody else.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep it moving here. We're coming up on the 1 hour mark. It's been a lot of fun chatting with everybody. Steven says hand raised. I have a feeling that's in reference to we've all paid a little
The
too much for
headshots.
headshots in the past. I am guilty as
Right.
well. These guys are just chatting. Well said. Thank you very much, Ari. Ari was in a film that I directed. Actually, a friend of mine who looks a lot like me directed. His name is Dan Hunter. But
Dan's a good guy. Yeah.
Dan's a good guy, great director. Ari's a very talented actor. And Ari, you damn right, man. You were in a movie. You should be proud of it. Posted 1,000 times. Again, if anyone has a problem with you posting something positive that you're happy about, you're probably just a hater. Okay. Oh no, so you know your stuff. That must be in reference to the books. Stephen is clearly very educated on these film books, and said he just inboxed me. Stephen, I'm going to check that out after the show, and I'll get right on back to you. Kim says, I've had about 6 auditions for feature films in the past month through Actor Access. Congratulations, Kim. That's how you get after it. We're going to give you an and action A for success. It's going to be our new symbol. If we appreciate it, we're going to hit you with the A for taking action. And yeah, see I'm the and, Mike's the action. When we combine, you get the and action.
Yeah.
So good job, Kim. Yeah, that's what I see that a lot. We see a lot of people post their pictures from auditions.
He's referring
And
to the
Stephen,
book that I'm looking at. Yeah.
yes, Matt Newton. All right, so he's a Connecticut. If he was he coaching in Connecticut or is he from Connecticut?
Well,
Do we know?
he's an interesting guy. He Matt. I mean, he's got his little bio here. He started acting like kind of a New York City guy. That's kind of his
Okay,
thing. He
that makes sense.
He has his own studio in New York City and so forth. And I mean, the book is good. I mean, I'll be honest, it's not my favorite, but I think it's the most contemporary. Like this is really of the 2022. Like this is fresh off the press, and so it's very informative for, I think, like I said, for beginners especially. And
Yeah, Stephen says he coaches in New York and Connecticut.
I've got something on Kindle Vella, Tommy. Art and War of Directing Student Low and No Budget Movies, a primer for creating and participating in independent films, television, and web series. For people that have Kindle Unlimited or Kindle, that's by me, Mike Messier. And that was me just kind of putting down my thoughts. Most of that I was in New England for quite some time. So books to read about acting, like you were saying, Tommy, some people respond better to books than others. Here's another option: Audible or audiobooks. You can listen to audiobooks. There's podcasts about acting. I mean, if you really want to get in your mindset, a friend of mine uses that. What's that new website that's industry professionals are online talking to each other? Chatterbox, something like that. What is it?
I don't know.
Clubhouse. It's like
the
Clubhouse or something. Clubhouse or something like that. I haven't done
Clubhouse. I've heard of that.
Yeah.
I will say this, just to kind of sum it up, all of these techniques are great. They really are. And, it's great to have all of these tools and resources out there to get better at what you do. But at the end of the day, like anything else, the best way to get better at acting is by simply acting and just repetition. The law of 10,000 kicks, like Bruce Lee says, you just got to do it over and over and over and over until it's like breathing and you don't even think about it and the nerves are gone and you're just living in the moment. And we hope that we can help you in any way we can here on the And Action podcast. We're going to be coming at you again next week. We're going to try to stick to this Tuesday time frame. Usually it's going to be right around this 5 o'clock window. But again, remember, you don't have to watch the shows live, but you can if you'd like to interact with Mike and I. And next week's topic, we're going to talk about the writing side of things. Again, And Action's all about all aspects of film. It's not just for actors. It's not just for writers. It's not just for directors. It's for people who want to take some goddamn action in their lives. In the
Well,
world
Tommy,
of film.
put Stephen E.'s last comment. Maybe we'll wrap with Stephen E. He's been a very good participant here, and I appreciate
Stephen, thank you very much, man. I appreciate that.
Appreciate the sign of confidence, buddy. Really do. And thanks to Kim, Ari, don't want to leave anybody out, but everyone that participated in the live stream, Stephen E.
There
Nick,
was one gentleman
Stongo.
I'd like to, Nick, quick shout out to you. I didn't get to say hi. We appreciate you tuning in today. And we'll be back next week. Hey, in the meantime, if you have any questions for myself or Mike, feel free to drop them in the comments this week. And next week, we'll get to them. So any questions at all about film, television, movies, content, professional wrestling, because we know about that too. Anything you got for us, Mike and I are happy to answer it on next week's episode, which will most likely be next Tuesday. Thank you for listening. We look forward to seeing you next week.
Bye.